So earlier today was a Nintendo Direct that at first I quite enjoyed. Um, I will say that while I didn't think it was the greatest Direct in history, it had for me plenty of stuff that got me excited and that I wanted to see. And overall, I thought it was pretty good. Um, However, it's interesting because this feels very much like a repeat of April, where April was like the greatest direct they ever did with like so much amazing things, and then once the prices came out and some other information came out, it became a little harder to see it that way. And I'll admit I was very much on the defensive side at the time. Mainly because one, I felt like what they had shown was high enough quality that I didn't get as bogged down in the negatives as some people did, and also I didn't want to judge at that point the prices of items that had not released yet. I felt like with stuff like the system itself and Mario Kart and the upgrades and all that stuff, I'm like, once they release, then we can judge more closely the prices. But I was very optimistic in the sense that, like, I felt like, yeah, I think the system will be worth that much. I think these games could be worth that much, etc., etc. Today's Direct, though, feels different. It feels, for me, like, kind of a bit of a breaking point, and where I'm kind of concerned going forward with Nintendo Switch 2 and Nintendo in general. And yeah, once again, it's one of those things where, like, you could say, like, now you're concerned, not back in April, but what can I say? I'm an optimistic guy. But now we're at a point where there's a lot of stuff kind of stacking against them in my eyes, and it makes me kind of upset. So, really, the main thing to kind of set this all off, at least for me, is the Donkey Kong DLC that released today. And again, when they announced this, I was very excited. Cut to me screaming right now about it. No way! And, overall, like, I did expect it to get some kind of update, because Mario Odyssey, that got really great updates. Like, few months, let's say 3 months or so after the game came out, we had Luigi's Balloon World, which is a super fun mode. And over the course of that whole year, they added like 20-something costumes, and they're all super fun. And Donkey Kong felt very similar. It felt like, hey, they could probably add some kind of new mode, and there's plenty of costumes they could add. There's only one hat in the game, so you could have more hats. And for me, something that I personally felt about Donkey Kong Bananza was that I did really enjoy the game. I thought it was great. I'd recommend it to people, but for me, I felt like there was a little something missing, and specifically, I really, really wanted a more in-depth post-game or more general rewards, and I was really hoping for DK Island to be a post-game level, because it just felt perfect. Mario Odyssey had Mushroom Kingdom, Donkey Kong Bonanza, you do DK Island, it would be just great. And so now we have that, but there's a big catch. So this, alongside its new roguelike kind of mode, which honestly does look fun, I will completely admit right now, it looks fun, are paid. It is not a free update. It is $20. And, this kind of spins into a new discussion of what, it's funny because when they announced prices, we thought $80 was going to be the problem. But my problem right now is what Nintendo thinks is worth $20. Because we had 2 Switch 2 upgrades come out in the last few months. And I was excited at the prospect of Switch 2 upgrades. I really felt like with these bigger $20 ones that they were going to do, that they could really add a substantial amount of content, substantial amount of improvements, all this stuff. I was very optimistic. But with both Mario Party, Jamboree, and Kirby and the Forgotten Land, I have been very disappointed with how they've gone about them. Now, the Mario Party one, I myself have not actually played, because I don't know Mario Party, but I was surprised at how mixed the reception was and how negative a lot of people felt about it, because when they announced it, I really felt like that was kind of a slam dunk. It felt like, yeah, that's a perfect idea. It'll probably be really good. I can see people have fun with it, but no, people were very negative on it and felt like it was a very, very small amount of stuff for $20. And then Kirby and the Forgotten Land was honestly one of the things I was most excited for on Switch 2, because that's one of my favorite 3D platformers ever, and the prospect of, entirely new content, I expected a lot from it. I'll admit, I really was thinking like it'll be like a whole new campaign's worth of things and they could add all sorts of other stuff, but then you buy and play it and no, it's 12 levels that are good, but they're based heavily on already existing levels, and then a new final boss that is a 100% recycle of the already existing final boss. And I felt pretty swindled by that, I'll admit. I felt kind of like, why did I spend $20 on this? I think there were better things to spend that kind of money on. And now Donkey Kong Bonanza's DLC is looking to be the really an even worse example of this. I myself have not bought or played it yet. And honestly, I don't know if I will, because I don't really like what they're doing here. But I've been following people playing it, and it's one new level that, looks good. It looks good. And the new mode, which also looks good. But, for one, the new mode is only in 6 levels, which I think is unacceptable at this point. Because, like I said, Mario Odyssey, Luigi's Balloon Mode, every single level got that mode, and it was free. Why for $20 is it only in 6 levels? And I feel like there's no excuse of like, well, some levels couldn't fit it, when I'm like, no, like, Luigi's Balloon Mode was in levels that didn't fit it, Like, they made it work, but they just didn't here. And then, the DK Island stuff, again, it's like, it looks good, but here's the thing about that kind of DLC, typically DLC like that, especially for that price, is made after the game is made. Like something that this reminded me of, because it's the closest example to Nintendo themselves, making DLC for a big first-party game, was Breath of the Wild. And people were mad about that. I remember when they first announced that, people were like, that's really crappy of them. And, and similar to Donkey Kong, it's like, yeah, for the complete Breath of the Wild package, it is $80. But here's the thing. All that DLC was made after the game was finished and shipped. And it was all stuff that was very, it was very specific. Like, the first bit of that DLC was these challenge maps that, based themselves off of, kind of the Eventide Island and stuff that players were really enjoying. And then the second one, it adds a whole new dungeon, it adds a motorcycle, which was crazy. So, like, it's one of those things where, like, you can't make the argument of, well, that stuff should have just been in the game already, because it's very kind of niche and specific stuff, and the kind of stuff that makes sense to make after the game has been finished. This DLC for Donkey Kong Bonanza is not that. This feels like stuff that, I mean, there's no way they made this, in 2 months. Like, there's just no way. They had this in some way ready to go. It has full voice acting with Pauline, so yeah, 100%. They were making this ready to go, and they decided not to release it for free or not include it in the base game. They decided, no, we can make people pay for it later, which does happen in AAA gaming, but to see Nintendo stoop to this, and this soon, is really, really, really disheartening. It makes me feel kind of weird. Especially with Donkey Kong Bonanza, because, that's a game that, again, I have nitpicks with, but overall, I think it's an extremely high-quality game, just great. And it's one of the few AAA games I've bought at $70, because I honestly don't really buy new games for that much, but that was a game that I did, and I felt like, yeah, that was worth $70. It was a great enough value, I'd recommend it, but now, I'm like, my god, like, you're gonna hold off this small content and then repackage it for $20 and make the whole game now $90, for the whole thing, and that's just insane to me. that's ridiculous. And I don't know, and it makes me feel kind of weird. And the thing that makes this even worse, and it's so funny because I've been thinking it this last week since I bought and played it, but it sends a message, is how Hollow Knight Silksong, which for me is one of the greatest games that I've played in years and probably ever. It's a masterpiece. It took me 50 hours to beat all the content in the game, and it was $20. Like, completely $20, and it'll probably go on sale in the future too. It's not like Nintendo. It'll probably go for like 15 later. And I just, and it makes it so much harder because I think about that and I think I paid $20 for that Kirby DLC and I got maybe like 2 hours worth of new stuff out of it. I paid $20 for Hollow Knight Silksong and I got an entire week's worth of a game out of that I will be returning to and playing for probably the rest of my life. And it just, and usually the argument to that would be to say, well, obviously a larger game has to be more money because more people worked on it. It took more years, and I have no problem with that. Like, I think a good example would be something like Metroid Dread, because you could argue Hollow Knight's better than Metroid Dread, but that cost $60. Well, Metroid Dread was made by like 50-something people, and they all worked very hard, and it's got fancy graphics, and I got no problem supporting the artist. But this is different, Like, I don't believe that many people are making these crappy DLCs and charging $20. It's just, I don't know. It just feels ridiculous, and it just feels like, I don't know, and it kind of just feels like Nintendo is sort of nickeling and diming like all of their games with this. And it's such a monkey's paw kind of moment, because I remember during the Switch we all thought, like, why don't they make more DLCs like Breath of the Wild? And now we got a monkey's paw wish where now, yeah, they're doing it, but it really sucks. It's not very good, and they're releasing it for way too much money, and it's just, I don't know. It disturbs me a little. It makes me sad. And it makes me kind of unsure what kind of games I want to buy from Nintendo in the future. I just bought the Switch 2. I was very enthusiastic to buy it, but now already I'm feeling that feeling of like there's just stuff I just want to skip. Like Kirby Air Riders was one. Like, that game looks great. It looks very high quality. I don't think there's a problem with it costing $70, but for me personally, I'm not that into racing or vehicle games, so I don't think it'd be worth $70 to me. But now I have to wonder, like, well, are they gonna, hold off content from that and release it later for $20? Like, what other games are they gonna do that? Are they gonna do that with Mario Maker now? Like, when they do eventually Mario Maker 3 instead of free updates, are they just gonna hold off on game styles and stuff and release them later for $20? It's very disheartening, and yeah, I don't know, and it's very weird. So yeah, I guess that's all I got. I just wanted to come on and talk about it because it's very much in my mind. And again, I posted my reaction video earlier today, and in that one I'm very positive about a lot of the stuff, and I had to put a disclaimer because I'm kind of embarrassed. Like, now I'm like, yeah, but again, I think though that shows that, like, if they didn't do these like crazy pricing and releases of these things, it would be exciting. Like, if this Donkey Kong thing had released for free, oh my god, that would have been amazing. I would be so excited. I'd be playing it right now. But Nintendo just kind of sabotages themselves, and it's very, yeah. So yeah, I don't know. What do y'all think about this? I mean, I don't know, 40 of my subscribers, what do y'all think about this news that only I care about? Yeah, I guess that's it. Thanks for watching. Have a good rest of your week. Bye-bye.